Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, dude?
Good,
How
good.
is it going? So, man, I that Bible, like, whew,
Yeah, I'm still shocked that it was still there, but yeah, that is awesome.
I'm amazed because, I had texted you, and I was really. Actually, let's hold on just a second right there. I feel like I need to explain why I used a cliffhanger ending in the last part. To me, I like the cliffhanger because it's kind of like a slap in the face to myself. I was really excited when I found his Bible, and he was stoked too. I mean, he was really glad to hear about it. But in a way, I wonder if there's really any way to even do this job without it being morally reprehensible. So, why am I doing this? I was born here in southern Missouri. I grew up in a town called Ozark, Missouri. When I was younger, I had severe asthma, and I remember spending long periods of time watching TV shows and movies and just really having a sense of peace from doing that. I would hear the whir of the machine, the breathing machine. I remember not being able to hear them, but just really being captivated by their stories through images and just this whir, this constant whir. It was kind of like an escape from, I don't know, I guess the lack of being able to breathe, or maybe it helped regulate my breaths or something, I'm not sure. The first movie I saw in theaters was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. We saw it at a little single screen theater in Springfield called the Tower Theater. I just remember that experience being really just grand.
Hi ho! Hi ho!
As I grew up, getting my first jobs, I worked at a McDonald's, I worked at Burger King, I worked eventually at a movie theater, which turned out to be probably the most pivotal thing of my life because I could suddenly just watch movies for free. The friendships that I've had along the way, everybody I meet has been like a mentor. They've shared different movies with me and allowed me to sort of open my mind to what movies can do. So I got this job at the movie theater and I just loved it. I started working eventually as a projectionist. So we would get the canisters and splice them all together, put them on platters, and then the whole movie would play and we would just go around. We had 8 screens, so I'd go around monitoring each screen and just making sure that everything was running smoothly. When I eventually decided to go to college, my buddy Chris was going to the Academy of Art University. He was like, hey, you should come out here. It's in San Francisco. It's beautiful. They have film programs, and I was just at a point in my life where that was it. I was like, wow, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go out to Academy of Art University in San Francisco, study their film program, and try to get into making movies, the things that I love. And I was able to start working at a movie theater in San Francisco. A couple different ones actually, doing 35mm projection. And this was right around the time of the digital changeover. So within a year or two of working at these theaters, suddenly everything was switching to digital. It was really kind of a bitter moment, this being a projectionist for 8 years and then suddenly kind of not having that job. Film just kind of fading away. But I was going to school at Academy of Art. I was living in San Francisco. It was rough. We first lived with a lady on Haight Street, and it was $900 for a living room, per living room, which was very small. It was like a 10 by 10 space that 3 of us were sharing for $900. So that lasted a few months, and then eventually we moved to a residential hotel, and that was wild. $1,600 a month, and there were bed bugs in the hotel. The bathrooms were communal. I mean, it had its problems, but really it was interesting living there. It was almost like The Shining. It reminded me of The Shining. Then I moved into another house with some people. That lasted a little while, and then finally a manager at the theater I worked at offered a place to live, and we moved into a house in Bernal Heights where I lived for about 2 years, and that house was beautiful. It had an amazing view of the city. It was just an amazing little place to live for that short period of time. It's pretty expensive to live in San Francisco. I was going to school full time. I was working as much as I could to try to pay the rent, but still, you know, it was hard to keep afloat with going to school and trying to maintain a job living in San Francisco. I got really tired of paying the rent and decided that I would live in a van. I just bought a van and started living in it.
So yeah, it's been 6 months since a little over 6 months since I started living in the van.
October 5th, I will have been living in the van for 1 year. I think I learned a lot just from that experience, just kind of like dwindling down on all my material possessions and just having like me, my car, my basic necessities, and a place to sleep. And it was really just like a quiet time of reflection and sort of trying to figure things out. Like, what do I want to do? What are my next steps? You know, I'm going to college now, but what do I do after that? You know, at some point I decided that I wanted to move to Los Angeles because I figured that if I finished my degree instead of on-site, online, that I could go basically anywhere. And I thought, well, where should I go? If I'm going to be pursuing filmmaking, I should probably go to Los Angeles. So I did. I lived in my car in Los Angeles for a little while, and I was doing background work. I got to be in a bunch of cool movies and TV shows and things like that. Being on set, even just as an extra in the background, you know, seeing how it works and seeing how it's all about, you know, this collaboration, and it's really important to just be quiet and let it happen. Eventually I met Vanessa, who is actually from the LA area. She grew up in Downey, so she knew the area, and we really hit it off. We had a lot in common. We both loved movies. I mean, we're both obsessed with movies. Finally, I had found the one person who I clicked with. I feel like I had known this person my whole life. We hung out, we went to see movies together, we eventually moved in together. We had a couple different apartments, and eventually we got married. Before I proposed to Vanessa, I brought her back to my hometown here in Missouri. We both just loved it. I mean, we were kind of bombarded by the chaotic, you know, LA, sort of traffic everywhere, driving on the freeways, just like the insane scale of LA. When I was living in San Francisco, it's kind of easy to wrap your head around the city. I mean, it's only like 8 miles wide. It's easy to eventually kind of know everything that's in San Francisco. You know, like, this is this spot, this is this spot, this is this spot, you know. But when I moved to LA, it was just so overwhelming. It was just huge, a sprawl. So we came back to Missouri, and the contrast between LA and Missouri was just wild. I mean, suddenly you're just coming into like nature and lakes and people that are kind, you know? And just this stuff that I remembered growing up, and all these places that I showed her that I used to love going to, you know, different little hot spots, little creeks, rivers, streams, and Branson, of course, like the touristy stuff. So we went back to LA, having a great impression of this area, and just really kind of like longing for it, longing for that nature. So we thought, well, why not move to Missouri? Get back to the hometown. Once I graduate, I can do work remotely from Missouri, and it'll be great. I mean, we can just We can live there, it'll be peaceful, we've got the lake, we've got nature, you know, it's our own little spot. And we decided to move to this little cabin right by Table Rock Lake. For the first, I would say, year and a half, it was amazing. It was so nice. I started working at Silver Dollar City, the theme park here in southern Missouri near Branson, and I loved it. I mean, I loved all the people that I worked with. It was a great place. I made a lot of great friends. It was so peaceful, right by the lake, you know, going kayaking, just hanging out, not having traffic, not hearing, you know, car alarms and police sirens and just the sounds of the city. You know, it felt good to be back home.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus.
Coronavirus.
This is a rapidly emerging situation where there is not a cause for alarm.
The first US case has been detected. There's confirmation the coronavirus has reached Australia.
I have today declared that the coronavirus presents a public health emergency in the United States.
More than 3 billion people in almost 70 countries and territories have been asked to stay at home.
So together, and with the rest of the world, we face this unprecedented challenge. For many, young and old, 2020 will be the toughest year of our lives.
Countries around the world have now reported more than 1 million coronavirus cases.
The city may have to temporarily bury bodies on public land if they run out of morgue space.
Better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again.
You need to step outside, sir. You need to be distancing yourself. You need to have a mask on. I am breathing through a mask.
Okay, but they just set something else on fire outside. Let go of my fucking car! Let go of my fucking car!
Authority to tell me to leave. You go get her and leave! I have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
This is where we live. We live in America, where if you have a note to not wear a mask. Look at this. You see this bullshit? You see this? You see this? Get off of me! Don't touch me! Don't touch me! You put your hands on me again, I'll sue you!
We begin in Branson, where tensions were high for a second straight weekend. As you saw moments ago, groups gathered to protest Dixie Outfitters, and counter-protesters stood their ground as well. Our Jacob Blunt was in Branson today covering the protest outside.
Go! They do! My life matters too!
I was mocking them because I don't like being called a racist.
The World Health Organization has just released a report estimating that 15 million deaths occurred globally due to the pandemic, around triple the current estimates.
It's hard to say. I mean, this area just really changed. It shifted a lot during the pandemic. Suddenly there was something more sinister. The political climate, you know. This area to me was once like a peaceful place, and then suddenly became kind of a dangerous place. And it wasn't just me making that up. It wasn't just, you know, something that I'm just like making up in my head. This is something that it's hard to really put it into words, but there was just a lot of tension around here, and some of the work experiences that I had really kind of frightened me. Silver Dollar City was closed at the beginning of the pandemic. Of course, everything was closed. And I remember when it opened back up, I didn't think it was the right timing, and I didn't feel comfortable going back to work there. So I decided to leave. I got a few different jobs. I tried a few different things out, but eventually I was working retail pretty close to where I live. And working that retail store right around the same time as the presidential inauguration and everything. And it was just so frightening to me. I'd never been so kind of backed into a corner in my entire life where I felt like I couldn't really speak. And if I did speak, it would be putting myself in danger.
They were peaceful people. These were great people.
And there was one thing that happened that made me say, okay, I want to get out of here. Like, that's it. We have to go. Like, we can't be here anymore. And it was working retail one night. We had a customer drive up, and they pulled up in this car. They were listening to music. The music was just blaring out of their car. Me and two or three coworkers are standing outside smoking cigarettes or whatever we're doing when it's not busy, and they pull up in this car and get out, and the first thing the guy says is he looks at us, he goes, "You guys want to buy some crack?" And to me, I just kind of laughed. I mean, I giggled and thought that that was kind of a joke, you know, like, you know, this guy's joking, you know. But my coworkers immediately got very tense and went inside the store. I followed them shortly after. The customer came in, and we're behind the cash register, and they're talking about like having their guns ready and stuff. Like they're like, "Oh, I got a gun in my car. I'm gonna go get it." And I'm just thinking the whole time, I'm like, guys, if something's to happen here, we have to comply. Like, we can't escalate this situation. Like, if you pull a gun on somebody who's trying to rob us, it's gonna make things worse. Like, somebody's gonna get possibly hurt. We need to comply. If they ask us for money, we give them the money, because this is like our lives, and it's more important than this money. You know, it's more important than the store. It's more important than this company. It was just that reaction that just really soured me and scared me. But it was also a combination of things, and just all this talk about guns, and, you know, people talking about martial law coming in, and people buying ammo from each other, and people coming to the store showing their guns, saying that they would do anything for their religion. A lot of times I felt like I was kind of losing it, you know. It put me in a situation where I felt like I was the bad guy. And I think I maybe was the bad guy. But I wouldn't talk. I wouldn't speak about it. I wouldn't bring it up. I wouldn't voice my concerns. I mean, I'm sure I expressed it emotionally. But I was very scared. I was frightened. And I felt like I was just backed into the ultimate corner where there was nothing I could really do, you know. I remember crying a lot, just breaking down with Vanessa, and just like, we can't stay here. We can't be here. You know, we have to go somewhere where there are people who are more relaxed, more at ease, more just doing things, being creative, being, you know, expressing themselves, and just like living, you know. We didn't know how to make that happen. Financially, we couldn't make it happen. And I was still going to school. So we just pushed through. We kept going. But I couldn't work there anymore, and I had had enough. I was out. I was done. I decided to quit and never looked back. But there was an issue, which was, what am I going to do? What am I going to do around here? You know, I have to pay rent. I have to pay bills. But I'm going to school full time, and it's coming up to my final semesters, and I know that those final semesters are going to be just insane. You know, it's going to be a crazy workload. And I just didn't know what to do. So I started watching these YouTube videos, people buying storage lockers and reselling them and making profit off of that. And I was addicted. I mean, I would watch videos of people going to yard sales too, finding things, people going to thrift stores, finding things, reselling them, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. Seems like a pretty easy way to make money. Seems kind of fun. You know, I started watching these shows, Storage Wars. There's a ton of great YouTube creators that are making shows like this where they buy units. Some of them are amazing. I mean, they'll pay $1 and get a locker that's full of like model trains, like just stacked to the brim, like an unreal amount of things that are just in these units, and it's like, wow. And you think, well, what could I find in there, you know? So I started looking around and I was like, how do I do these auctions? And I couldn't really find any around this area that are live in person. What I had to do was search online, and a lot of them have changed to online buying. And I started buying them, and that was that. That led me right into buying the first unit I bought, which was Hosea's unit. And since then, I've bought not a lot, probably like 7 to 8 units, I would say, maybe more. But doing this and this whole experience gave me the idea to make this thing that you're watching right now. And I know that this might not be what you want to see. It's probably more entertaining to see the actual buying and probably maybe the giving back, you know, the items. Which I love the idea of that. And the thing is like, people are going to buy these storage units regardless, you know. Somebody was going to buy Hosea's unit regardless. Somebody buys all these units regardless. But most of the time, you don't hear about the family photos, you don't hear about the personal things. You know, there's a lot of stuff that's thrown away or just glossed over. So I thought there was something there, and that like maybe we can work on trying to reach out a little better, you know. Maybe we can try to, maybe there's a way around this to make it to where the job is not so bad. It doesn't feel so bad. I'm really questioning that. I'm really questioning it. I mean, and I'm right in the middle of it right now. There's an important thing to be said about exploitation. I even question whether or not, you know, if I crossed that line. So hey bud, it's you from 2 years later. I'm editing the video now, getting ready to finish it up, and I wrote something for you last night, so I'm gonna read it. Here it goes. You're fine. Stop being so dramatic. The world is once again in shambles in many ways. Something new will always go awry. Don't get too caught up. The future is unpredictable. You're doing alright. Keep doing stuff, watching movies, enjoying time with the people you love. You got a rough 2 years ahead of you, but it'll be alright. I'm not sure what happens next, but I need to work on this next part now because I think people will be pissed that this one didn't have Hosea's interview in it. Haha. Anyways, till next time. Love you, buddy. Not a real phone. It's movies!
Fucking fly, God!
What are you doing there?
Question mark?
Looks good. I mean, like, what are you doing though?
Painting titles?
Is it fun?
No.